And what's going on, everybody? It is the Mailbag Brothers here in order to give you some more of our Dynasty perspective for yet another week. Chris Allen, Adam Wilde. So this week, hopefully we're able to get a little bit more into our startup discussion, and we'll just go ahead and hop on right into it. Our first question here has to do with, I guess, our strategies or our perspectives when it comes to doing startups. And what we're talking about here is a question that was given to us goes with looking at a few different groups and how folks would perceive their values as you go through a startup draft. And so in Group A, we've got QB Josh Allen, running back Derrick Henry, who just got his new contract. We'll talk about that here in just a second. And then also the wide receiver Devontae Adams. In Group B, Russ, Nick Chubb, and Mike Evans. And then Group C, we've got Kyler Murray, Aaron Jones, and Tyreek Hill. So, Adam, looking at these three groups and thinking about your perspective or your thought process when it comes to putting together a dynasty squad like via a startup, which group would you take out of these three and why?
Yeah, so we're operating under the assumption that it is not super flex, right? So we're going to have one QB. Yeah. And also, we don't know if this is a three-way trade or if this is startup. So we pulled up our startup. And if you want to share my screen, we can talk about that. We'll talk about this startup a couple times here. But we basically came to terms with the fact that it's probably a startup question. This person's trying to establish what combination of their first three picks that they could make. And honestly, I feel pretty good about all three of these. I would just have to say, actually, it must be super flex because they're doing quarterbacks that early. So I would have to say the safest would be the Russell Wilson, Nick Chubb, and Mike Evans. If I'm shooting for the moon, Kyler Murray, Aaron Jones, and Tyreek Hill, and just hoping that Aaron Jones resigns. But then I think you could also go with the underrated squad of Henry, Allen, and Adams, because Devontae Adams to me is my wide receiver too. And I like to start with a wide receiver. Now it looks, according to our draft, you can wait quite a bit for wide receiver.
Yeah, where do you go? Yeah, in the second round.
Yeah. So you could probably wait and you don't have to take him in the first. But we're going to talk about Derrick Henry so incredibly undervalued right now, which I never thought I'd say in my life. Josh Allen's already kind of climbing, so you need an ascending quarterback. But most valuable and probably the easy pick, you're getting a quarterback that's already being drafted, where he got drafted at 5 in our draft. So you're getting a quarterback that's already at the top. Maybe you could squeeze out a few picks to end up at third overall, something like that. Yeah. But you're getting an ascending young quarterback on top of an ascending young wide receiver who already has his contract in Tyreek Hill, so long as he doesn't get in trouble, of course. Yeah. That's always something to consider in Dynasty. Honestly, I do. So I think you just take Kyler because he's Kyler, and then you're happy with the other two picks, Tyreek Hill being ascending, Aaron Jones being a quality young running back who hopefully stays with the Packers. I don't see many workhorse positions out there. Like, if he were to leave teams, there's not many teams out there that I'm excited he goes to, So I'd rather him stay with Green Bay. They shouldn't pay Aaron Jones, but who knows what that front office is doing at this point.
Yeah, who knows? But I guess that brings us into the conversation surrounding Derrick Henry at the moment. So he gets his 4-year, $50 million deal. And from a dynasty standpoint, the question, at least I know a lot of folks are going to be having right now, is how should we value him going forward? We were taking a look at his ADP. Right now he's going somewhere in the RB12-ish range. So if you're looking at trying to acquire him in a startup or even in trades, that's about where he's priced at. But at least my thought process is, and hopefully, and we'll walk through some trades or whatever to kind of highlight that, is that even if he does put up some of the same numbers that he the similar numbers that he did for last season, and we were looking earlier, he finished as the RB2, behind CMC. So let's say even if he winds up hitting those same thresholds as he did in 2019, my question is, will he still be valued that way? So even if you decide at some point, if you're looking at your roster at the end of the 2020 season, You make it into the playoffs, or like Derrick Henry carries your squad, but you just need some help in other areas. Will you be able to offload a guy like Derrick Henry for similar value, such that you can actually start to rebuild your squad should you need to? And at least my thinking is, I don't think you'll be able to get market value from a guy like Derrick Henry the same way that you would a guy like Christian McCaffrey or any of the top running backs like in the league right now. That's my thought process. Yeah, is that, I mean, a guy like him, 300 touches. I don't see how.
In PPR. I wanted to get that in there before you added conversation. He's the RB5 in PPR. That was standard. He was the RB2. But that goes to what we were talking about earlier. I said you have to make a decision right now. Mm-hmm. Do you think that we value young running backs because they're under contract with that team, situation can't change, or do we value young running backs because they're young? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's something that I have to battle with internally. I'm pretty sure that I value these running backs because they're young, but I also don't really like owning a running back going into their second contract with a different team because it just seems to never pan out. So I think that you might be able to tell yourself, I got a fresh running back, right? Like I get a brand new 4 years, maybe, mm-hmm. or maybe he's going to be washed in 2 years like CJ2K was when they decided to give him the contract.
Maybe. I mean, that's the thing. And so for context, we pulled up the DLF like trade finder just to see like how folks have been valuing a guy like Derrick Henry. And I mean, take a look at this. I mean, you guys tell me at home if you guys are seeing something different than I am in terms of the value for Derrick Henry. And we're going to do the same thing for a guy like Christian McCaffrey. And so these are the values that you're getting, like for Derrick Henry. I'm saying Derrick Henry for Julio Jones. For other pieces, so let's see where Derrick Henry is the main guy. So let's see, Derrick Henry in the 210 for a 21 first, 21 second, and a 2023 first. All right, Derrick Henry for Rashad Penny, the 207, a 21 first, and a 21 second. Okay. Derrick Henry for Dalvin Cook. I mean, the list goes on and on. And not to say these are not fair values, but there's nothing that jumps off the page to me to say that, ooh, I would really consider that. Or again, the scenario that I'm talking about in that, all right, I get to the end of the 2020 season. Derrick Henry has another wonderful season leading the Titans, 1,300 plus yards. Let's say he tacks on like a little bit more receiving work. And okay, you have an RB1 like on your squad. But is he going to be valued at an RB1? And I'm just not seeing it. Adam, do you have the trade finder like with Christian McCaffrey pulled up?
I do, yep.
Yeah, so let's look at some trades like for Christian McCaffrey.
Jacobs, Hill, late second, Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey for Preston Williams, 108, and 2021 firsts. Let's go. Oh, Nick Chubb and CD Lamb. Christian McCaffrey in the 209. 101, 201, 2021 first, Christian McCaffrey in 207. The point we're trying to make, here's another good one real quick. Christian McCaffrey, Marvin Jones for Joe Mixon, Kenny Golladay, and TJ Moore. The point we're trying to make, we're not comparing Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey. We understand why there's the value gap there. It's because Christian McCaffrey catches 100 passes a year. If you go over here and look at fantasydata.com, Christian McCaffrey had 471 points. Derrick Henry's the RB5 with 294. So we get it. We get the difference. But he's going to get 300 touches a year, 303 last year, 1,500, 16 touches. Can he do this until he's 30? That's a question you need to ask yourself right now, because as Chris and I discussed before the show, if you come to grips
and I think that's where, at least for me, I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm sitting back like trying to figure out like if any of these guys are players that I want to try and invest in as of right now. Are these guys the people that I want to try and like and try and like get in front of the market, or are these guys that I want to try and either sell off or like move right now, so that if other people are interested in acquiring them and putting them on their roster, then okay, fine, I'll go ahead and do that. But to me, it's just, I think who was it, Adam? Like, was it Ray that made the comment like beforehand that said that if you're gonna take your stance, like shoot your shot now, right? And
Ray tweeted that CMC and Derrick Henry are just two running backs that he's just going to ride into the ground, and that's it. Like, I'm not trading them. And that's what you have to do because his value is going to go down every second starting now.
Yeah, in my eyes, it's hard for me to see a scenario where whatever you paid for Derrick Henry, I even after 2020. So let's say if people say, all right, well, let me see like what happens in 2020, and he posts another like RB1 year. Are you going to get RB1 in return for him? I just don't see it. Whereas with guys, again, because of how he's used on the field, without that pass catching like portion like to his game, it's harder for me to see you being able to recoup value for him. So if you get him, great. He's going to put up numbers for you each year. But then if you try and move him, if you find yourself in a situation where you need to start rebuilding, you probably won't get the same return for him, and you might have to look elsewhere or like put together a much bigger package than you normally would with a running back that is a better, like it has more pass catching utilization.
That's a very good point you mentioned with rebuilding. I mean, if you get stuck with Derrick Henry as one of your main pieces and then a team and you look at rebuilding, it's going to be really tough to use him as a blue chip piece to send away in your rebuild because his value is just going to keep. But if you're a competitive team, you've been a competitive team for years, you're going to pay RB.
Like, I'm wondering if it's going to wind up being, I don't know, like RB2-ish. I mean, when we looked at the trade analyzer like earlier, just to see like where we would be at in terms of his value. And I think that's where you're going to wind up like finding yourself, like once you try and like get into those negotiations where you just won't see the same thing like with any of the other like top RBs. Like when we're talking about if it's even Zeke, like for like at some point, I mean, even though he's already got his second contract, but like him, Kamara, Saquon, I mean, those guys, they're used or like they're a part of the pass game. So we know that their production can come in like in different forms. With Derrick Henry, it's not so much. But I don't know. I mean, you guys can see our Twitter handles. Like come and yell at Adam like more than me. But I mean, if you guys have a different take on how to approach like Derrick Henry, like in his seat and his possibility, like his range of outcomes for his dynasty outlook, like moving forward, I'd love to hear more about it. I mean, because again, I think the best way is if you got him right now, you're stuck with him. If you want to move for him now, knowing that he's going to be that 300 plus touch dude for the next like 3 to 4 years, and just ride it out and see if you can like boost your squad that way.
Yep.
All right. So let's see what else do we've got next? All right. So we've got a quick debate. I don't think it's all that much to do about nothing here because it involves Juju Smith-Schuster, who we both think is a great asset and a great wide receiver, like in general. But I mean, the question goes, I mean, Juju seems to have the widest range of value. Personally, he's not in my top 10, but I see a lot of takes with him in the top 5. Adam, where should people be valuing him, or where do we see him being valued like most commonly, like around dynasty circles?
Yeah, if you want to share the screen for a second, we have the wide receiver rankings from over at DLF. Of course, Juju's the trade analyzer.
Oh, yeah.
He's down here at wide receiver 7. We started talking about the difference between DJ Moore and Juju, but it's a coin flip to me. They're both the same age. They both have had one really good season. I mean, Juju probably has had 2 really good seasons, I'd say, for a wide receiver under 23, but I would take Juju over DJ Moore pretty handily, and then I think the argument should be DJ Moore more so versus AJ Brown, but I think Juju sits firmly at 6, and then I see Juju being a top 3 wide receiver just next year. I mean, say he has another even 1,300-yard season. Let's say he goes 13 and 6 touchdowns or something like that. Really good season. You're going to be looking at a 28-year-old Devontae Adams, 27-year-old Tyreek, 28-year-old Michael Thomas, 29-year-old DeAndre Hopkins. That people don't like seeing those numbers. I get that that is so stupid, but that's just what happens to these older wide receivers. So you're going to see Juju just jump up there, even if everyone has good seasons, just based off age. Juju's going to take a nice leap, and he was already in the top 5 in ADP, and then he had an injured season. So we're really going to judge a 22-year-old's whole career based off one injured season without a starting quarterback. we're talking about Doug Hodges and Mason Rudolph throwing them passes. But if that's what you want to hang your hat on your Juju valuation, I guess. You'll talk about his slot rate here in a second, which is fantastic for fantasy. That's what we want to see. So I think he's firmly at 6 right now. He could easily be at 3 next year. And there's some guys that are behind him that just really raise my, like A.J. Brown, for example, all the way up at wide receiver 8. Fantastic rookie season, right? I get it. He's on a run-first offense. He did most of his work after the catch. And you talk about his former teammate, DK Metcalf, all the way at wide receiver 15, also had a fantastic season, had almost 25 more targets than A.J. Brown. He didn't have the yards per reception that A.J. Brown had. A.J. Brown had 5 more yards per reception than DK Metcalf, which is the about 100-yard gap between their total yards on the season. And it's double counting. I mean, Ryan McDowell talks about it every single offseason that I've been following him. He's talked about double counting. And you just get excited about a player like A.J. Brown, and you talk about him, and his ranking goes up and up and up because people hear his name more and more and more, and they don't realize, oh, I already adjusted for him. They're like, oh, another cool A.J. Brown piece? Okay, let me bump him. Oh, there's another A.J. Brown piece. All right, let me bump him again.
Yeah.
This person said that. Oh, and now he's all the way up there at 8 after a rookie season with 56 receptions. You know what I mean? Like, it should be probably 10 and 11, A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf in any order, and he's all the way up there at 8. So you're going to have to pay pretty much top dollar for A.J. Brown and probably not get a decent return on investment because he's already about as high as he'll get. You know, I mean, maybe he goes higher, but if people are paying wide receiver 8 prices now and he has another year where he gets 65 receptions, how does he go higher than 8?
Yeah, I mean, and we were talking about this before the show. Their team's like passing rate was at like the 27th, 28th, like passing rate like in the league this past season.
30.
Yeah, 30. Yeah. And so with them like still like wanting to lean on Derrick Henry some more, like it's hard for me to see them like actually like completely shifting gears and moving to like a higher passing rate. Like I don't see that.
Right.
So if we're talking about like A.J. Brown, like repeating what he did on short volume, efficiency is not one of those things that is really all that, like we don't talk about efficiency being all that repeatable year in, year out.
Sure.
What's more sticky is volume. So it's hard for me to see that actually like going like happening again. Whereas with Juju Smith-Schuster, I mean, this guy, so back in, and I didn't know this until like I actually looked it up. We were doing some research like before the show, but like Juju Smith-Schuster had the second most like slot targets in 2018. Like he had more slot targets than Adam Thielen. So for as much as we like guys that are produced like fantasy producers, Adam Thielen, Jarvis Landry, I mean, he was getting slot targets at the same rate as them. His slot rate is like above 40%. I mean, and with Ben Roethlisberger and like whomever is going to like be the take over the quarterback mantle, like after Ben Roethlisberger decides to hang him up. For me, it's just the way that Juju has been able to produce on the field. He's still an asset that I want to invest in. So I don't see the hesitation like regarding Juju other than the fact that he got hurt this past season. I mean, I can understand like being down on Pittsburgh's offense in general, like, but in that season, but from a dynasty standpoint, if you want to like project out over the next like 2-3 years, I mean, for me personally, I don't understand like where the concern lies, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
From a passing standpoint, they've been at least average. I mean, if not like beforehand, because when was it? I mean, Ben Roethlisberger had like not in 2019, 2018. He had over like 627 pass attempts in 2018.
Yeah, I think he had close to 5K yards that year.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is still like a pass friendly offense. And if Juju like really doesn't have too much competition, like at least on the interior, I mean, so they added Eric Ebron. Okay. I mean, sure. we have good performances out of Deontay Johnson and James Washington, but both of them primarily play on the outside. So if the slot area and also a mix on the outside, like opposite either one of those two is still up for grabs, I mean, Juju should be considered like in that same tier as most of the guys that we're talking about. So while he might not be top 5 right now, I still think there's a path for him to get to top 5, like over the next couple of years, especially for the reasons that you mentioned. I mean, a lot of those guys up at the top, they're not like 23, 24 years old anymore. Right. So a lot of those guys, like, while they still might put up wide receiver 1 values, I mean, I can still see them start to slip out of that top 5 rank. And then Juju should, I mean, he's 23 years old, should start to move his way up into those ranks. I can see that happening.
I completely, especially since he's already been there before. I mean,
right.
It was wide receiver 3 at a point before last season. So,
yeah, I think that's so. If, to be honest with you, I mean, he should be one of those guys people are out buying like right now.
Huge priority this offseason.
Yeah. Huge. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, without a doubt. But I mean, obviously, I mean, tell us like where you're at with Juju. I mean, is your concern like what's happening at the quarterback position? Or do you think that regardless of what happened, because after seeing Duck Hodges, Mason Rudolph, and Juju still be able to shine, I mean, is it not a concern? I mean, but definitely drop us a comment and let us know like what your thought process is in valuing one Juju Smith-Schuster. All right, last one, like for this week. Talking about the value of a couple of like young running backs in Nick Chubb and Josh Jacobs. So I think stylistically, folks are on the Nick Chubb train. I know when we had a conversation with the lovely Sam Lane, he is very much a proponent of Nick Chubb. But of course, I mean, Josh Jacobs isn't too bad of a running back himself. I mean, so I know that a lot of folks like value Nick Chubb ahead of Josh Jacobs, but I mean, is there really any clear-cut reason to go one or the other?
Yeah, I'll take the year with Josh Jacobs. Honestly, we were talking about the situations earlier, and they're so similar for 2020, at least, assuming we get any football. I mean, you've got Len Bowden, and then you've got actually a plethora at the wide receiver position for the Raiders. We just don't know exactly what we're going to get from it, but I mean, I don't think that Bryan Edwards and Henry Ruggs is going to be a wide receiver tandem to scoff at going forward.
Yeah,
should be 2 rookies that are candidates for productive first seasons. And then you go over to the other side, it's actually more of a knock because we're talking about 2 perennial Pro Bowlers and Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry in one situation, an All-Pro, I'm pretty sure. And then you've got Kareem Hunt there for 2020. And I swear this Kareem Hunt devaluation is insane to me. I mean, it's not Duke Johnson, who we all loved, right?
Right.
We love Duke Johnson, but to say we love Duke Johnson and now we have a one-time rushing leader 2 years ago, didn't have any injury, just got in trouble.
Yeah.
Still was productive last year in his last, I think he got to play 6 games. No.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And so we saw old Kareem Hunt last year in flashes because he wasn't getting his normal 20 touches, but we saw enough to know that Kareem Hunt's still very good at football. So now you have to share with someone who, in all actuality, could be better than you. So I keep getting so much hate this offseason for trying to remind people how valuable Kareem Hunt can be, and people don't want to hear it. And if Kareem Hunt was still in Kansas City and none of his situation happened, you're probably talking about Nick Chubb being 2, 3, 4 spots behind Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
So I don't really understand why we're not devaluing Nick Chubb enough for that. But if you're going to devalue Josh Jacobs' 2020 season because Len Bowden might catch some passes, well, Kareem Hunt can do a lot more than just catch some passes if he's given the opportunity to. Hopefully he leaves next year. I mean, the Browns can't pay him, right? So he's probably going to leave next year. But then at that point, Nick Chubb has 1 more year on his contract because he was the first pick in the 2nd round. So he doesn't even have the 5th-year option. So we're going to get 1 year of full workhorse Nick Chubb. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like looking at those 2 like side by side. So you've got, at least by our ADP at DLF, we've got Nick Chubb at running back 8, Josh Jacobs at running back 10. And to me, like that close, I mean, that short of a gap like between them 2 really comes down to personal preference. I mean, one could argue that Nick Chubb is the better rusher. like from a talent perspective, if you want to talk about like vision on the field, like burst, power, like and all that, I mean, sure, I could agree with that. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, I can agree with that. Josh Jacobs is probably the better pass catcher of the two. I mean, the dude trained with Julio Jones like prior to like joining the NFL. I mean, I think that as a pass catcher, Josh Jacobs is probably better. I mean, stylistically, they're good running backs, but as Adam laid out, there are plenty of obstacles in both of their ways that doesn't really scream like value like one way or the other. So I'd be fine with just saying that. I mean, whichever one that you prefer. I mean, me personally, I mean, I prefer Nick Chubb, but I'm not going to fault anybody like for going for Josh Jacobs over them.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs actually got picked before Nick Chubb in our Pros vs. Joes FFPC draft as well. So it is definitely just down to preference, and
didn't bat an eye at it.
Yeah, and every year is so valuable with a running back. So if it's that close, you probably should just take Josh Jacobs for getting an extra year. And actually, you should get an extra 2 years because Josh Jacobs was a first-round pick.
Yep.
So we're actually talking about 1 year younger and 2 extra years under contract if you take Josh Jacobs. So I actually just talked myself into Josh Jacobs.
So Adam likes Josh Jacobs more than Nick Chubb, at least from a dynasty standpoint. And again, I mean those points that he made, I can't fault him for it. I mean, it makes a ton of sense, and especially with how the Browns are insistent on using Kareem Hunt moving forward, at least for 2020. We'll see what happens afterwards. I mean, I think the obstacles are definitely in Nick Chubb's way for there to be at least some concern regarding his fantasy output for at least the next season, and we'll see what happens after that.
Right.
I mean, again, at best, we'll probably have the 2021 season as being the season where like we get to see what would happen if Nick Chubb had the backfield all to himself.
Right.
And then the Browns will probably screw that up by drafting ETN or something like that. Who knows? But all right, so that's where we're at for this week. We talked about some startup questions, Derrick Henry, some wide receiver values. I mean, but obviously we want to know what y'all think and where you see this fantasy season headed with the values and the strategy that we discussed. So come yell at us, come find us on Twitter, drop us a comment in the YouTube chat or YouTube comment area. Because we love to interact and find out like where you guys are headed with your respective squads. So with that, that's it for this week. Thank y'all for coming out and like checking us out and watching the video. We definitely appreciate you guys supporting DLF with all of the comments, the likes, and whatnot. So we definitely appreciate it, all of it. Adam, you got anything else for the folks before we get on out of here?
Yeah, since I just tainted our show with the FFPC yelling at me that it's our pick, do you want to make our pick real quick?
Yeah, why not? So where are we at the moment? So y'all can get a glimpse at. So this is the FFPC Pros vs. Joes. We got invited to join the group over there. It's actually a pretty solid group of drafters there. So we got like representation from Established to Run, Michael Leone. We're representing one of our affiliates of 4for4 here. We got Roto Underworld, a number of other folks that there that's a part of it. So as of right now, we're sitting at, I mean, pretty decent like running back group. We're shooting for some upside here. So this is a super flex draft, best ball with tight end premium because that's FFPC. That's what they love to do. Yeah. So at this point in the draft, honestly, dude, like Raquel Armstead, Justin Jackson, I don't hate that. Like at this point in the draft,
Campbell here, Alan Lazard's not a bad pick here either.
Yeah. I don't mind that either.
I think it's down to those four. We're talking about no upside after that. So
right,
we're talking about Alan Lazard, Paris Campbell, Justin Jackson, but Kelly just went. I would have preferred Kelly over Justin Jackson.
Yeah.
Why Armstead, except for there's no reason for him to be the running back going forward. I mean, we do that all the time. I know it's the 17th round, but every time a player leaves, we assume that the backup was going to, be the next man up, and they're just get someone else.
And who knows what that entire franchise is going to do once Leonard Fournette is off the roster. So I'm not entirely sold on him. I mean, Damian Harris kind of sticks out to me as well. We'll see what they want to do, but we're at that point, we're more or less like all in on the Patriots. Yeah, and we got Sony, didn't we?
We do have Sony, so that wouldn't be the worst idea on the planet.
But we're already stacking CEH and Damian.
We stacked. We didn't get to stack Darius, guys, but
that's true.
We do have CEH and Damian.
I don't mind Alan Lazard here, quite honestly.
I think that's the most upside here. I mean, Paris Campbell was a 106 in rookie drafts last year, but an injury-riddled rookie season, and now Michael Pittman. They're not to say that they affect each other too much at all, but
right. But I wouldn't mind doing that, and then we can take a look at quarterback on the next round, something along those lines. But I think Alan Lazard I'd be fine with.
Easton or something.
Yeah. If we need to on the next round.
Yeah.
That works for me.
All right.
So there you go, folks. You get to see us wind up actually screwing up our dynasty roster as we try and build towards a winner. We're chasing that ship with a bunch of other sharps. But again, appreciate y'all coming out. Anything else for the folks, Adam?
That's it.
All right. So y'all be safe. Y'all be kind to each other. Wear your mask. Wash your hands. And we'll catch y'all next week.
Peace.